Kettle Crew, once again, it's your man from Vancouver Island, and today we ask the questions, do you do the Rudnev Shuffle? Have you ever done the Rudnev Shuffle? And who should do the Rudnev Shuffle? I've asked a few coaches and athletes to give me their point of view. Let's get into it.
Target acquired.
Sergei Rudnev is a highly respected Russian kettlebell sport lifter who has achieved the highest honors in kettlebell sport. He has won multiple repeat championship titles, as well as prepared innumerable athletes who've gone on to achieve MS and MSIC ranks. Now, if you've ever watched Sergei perform the long cycle, you know that he has a very unique style. Most athletes tend to keep the same stance throughout their long cycle set, whereas Sergei will step wide in the clean phase and then step back into a narrow stance for the jerk phase. Here is a video of Sergei demonstrating this technique and giving a few key points for its use.
Hello, Solomon. Stepping out during the clean while you're doing long cycle is my old creative. I think it's useful for small people who has tall less than 175 centimeters. This position of your leg, if legs parallel to each other, is okay for bump during the jog. But you have not enough space for clean. So stepping out, it's okay for clean. Also, stepping out during the clean, the switch position of your feet helps to improve low blood circulation.
Here's Nikolai from the Seattle Kettlebell Club giving his take on the Rudnev Shuffle.
All right, what's up, Dynamo? So in regards to the Sergei Shuffle, I definitely give it as an option for people with either really short legs or really buff legs, because they have to stand much wider to pass those two kettlebells between their legs than they would normally have to stand when performing the jerk. It looks like Sergei likes to use it because he has such a narrow stance in his jerk, which is great for him. Anyways, that's my answer, and I'm sticking to it. This is Nikolai, Seattle Kettlebell Club. Bye.
Now, of course, not everyone agrees with Sergei that this is a worthwhile inclusion into the overall long cycle sequence. Some lifters find that the overall coordination involved in including that extra step in the long cycle technique a little more trouble than it's worth, while some lifters who, when they first started learning long cycle, experimented with the technique in the beginning and then ultimately just left that technique behind.
Hi, Coach Sully, and who's ever watching today. Talking about side steps and cleans, whether I've done it, if I do it now, and whether I recommend it. No, I don't do it, and no, I don't recommend it, but I have done it. And that was within the first little bit of me learning 2-arm long cycle, maybe the first 2 weeks. And that was just an experience in swinging 2 kettlebells, cleaning 2 kettlebells, trying to figure out how to get them through my legs without them banging together. My coach at the time had told me it was very inefficient, so I stopped that pretty quickly and figured out a stance that worked for me, and figured out how to clean up my cleans a little bit from there. And I don't recommend it for the same reason. Any added movement in your set is wasted energy, so I would not recommend it to anybody I'm training. I hope that helps. Thank you.
Now let's go back to what Sergei said just for a moment. Sergei's main criteria for the inclusion of the side step was for, quote, small people less than 175 centimeters tall. Now as a lifter, Carissa does not meet those criteria, so she likely would not, as Sergei put it, find it useful. However, I spoke to 2 other athletes who do meet that criteria, and here's what they had to say.
I tried it a few times when I was first learning doubles. I imagine this technique might work well for people with poor hip mobility in the rack position. Personally, I prefer wide legs for the whole movement. Saves on time and energy. I also find stepping out to the side requires an extra step of coordination. I've already got enough to think about in a 10-minute set. It's not an easy task to remember steps like which leg to switch. But after all, it's a good drill to be used in training. I don't know yet about using this technique on a competition platform. A clumsy person like I am would fall off the platform, definitely.
I myself have competed in kettlebell sport utilizing this technique. Here's a video of me using it in a 16 kg long cycle set. The main reason that I experimented with the shuffle step is that I find rack position more comfortable in a narrow stance. A wide stance like I've been using predominantly as of late actually makes me feel like I have more of a tendency to slouch into a poor position. And so the reason I stopped using the shuffle step really boils down to the same sort of waning focus that all beginners experience when learning new techniques. I found that when trying to use it in my 20 kg long cycle sets, I would be terribly inconsistent, shuffling for several steps, then not, then shuffling again, just because I was putting more focus into the effort of moving the bells rather than the technique required to move them well. This, I think, illustrates that any technique to be performed well requires practice. I also believe that a lack of practice, whatever your technique, will ultimately be the biggest drain on your performance. And so I think it's important as a coach to be able to offer options to lifters who need workarounds. Extra steps in the long cycle sequence may at first glance seem unnecessary or inefficient, but if a narrow jerk stance allows for a more comfortable rack position or a more efficient jerk position, then really it's a trade-off. We're just trading one efficiency for another. And so I think that that's really the main point to be made here about the Rudnev Shuffle. If you don't need to do it, you probably shouldn't do it. But if you need that workaround and it'll put you into a better position overall, then maybe you should do it.